Israel is facing the worst attack in 50 years. It's being called Israel's 9/11. On today's podcast, we walk you through what's happening, what exactly is happening in Israel. Thousands upon thousands of Israelis have been murdered, have been tortured, have been raped, have been kidnapped, and the atrocities, they keep happening. We also walk you through, tragically, how this is being funded by the American government, by the Biden administration. Joe Biden has sent over $50 billion to the Ayatollah in Iran. Iran is directing these attacks. Iran is funding these attacks. We walk you through on today's podcast exactly how the money flowed, how the Biden administration sent the money to Iran, and how they sent the money directly to Hamas in Gaza, even though they knew that that money would be used for terrorism.
Has President Biden sold out again? In that clip, Senator Ted Cruz, the strongest supporter of Israel in the Senate, reveals how Joe Biden foolishly funded the mullahs in Tehran, the mullahs who are one of the founders of Hamas. So when it comes to Israel, is President Biden about to sell out on Israel? Senator Cruz says there's a popular media narrative that Joe Biden is really pro-Israel, but he's just got a problem with his political party. Not so, says Cruz. He says Joe Biden has been undermining Israel for more than 50 years. Let's go back to 1982. 1982 was a long time ago. 1982, Joe Biden was in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. For that, he had a private meeting with the then Israeli Prime Minister, Menachem Begin. Senator Cruz says Biden decided to do what he's doing now, to threaten Israel, to threaten that he'd cut off U.S. aid if Israel didn't stop, quote, settlements in Judea and Samaria, that is the West Bank. So frankly, it's the same thing he was saying in 82 as to what he's saying now. We don't like Israel. You don't have any right to settle the land of Israel, and if you do, we're going to cut you off. Here's what the Prime Minister said to Joe Biden, then a senator. Don't threaten us with cutting off your aid. It will not work. I'm not a Jew with trembling knees. I'm a proud Jew with 3,700 years of civilized history. Nobody came to our aid when we were dying in the gas chambers and the ovens. Nobody came to our aid when we were striving to create our country. We paid for it. We fought for it. We died for it. We will stand by our principles. We will defend them, and when necessary, we will die for them again, with or without your aid. Cruz says that's what the Prime Minister of Israel said to Joe Biden over 40 years ago. He says the Prime Minister of Israel is still saying that to Joe Biden. But sadly, the entire Democrat Party is with Biden, undermining Israel and effectively forming a protective shield around the Hamas terrorists who committed the most unspeakable acts of modern times that we have seen. Ask what happens to Israel if America refuses to sell ammunition and weapons. Senator Cruz says that the Democrats' first aim is to undermine and get rid of Benjamin Netanyahu. Chuck Schumer said so on the Senate floor. He said he wants Netanyahu to be gone. Apparently, the voters of Israel don't have a right to choose their own leader. It's going to be the Democrats in Washington who'll do that. But the White House and the congressional Democrats, they hope that by attacking Israel relentlessly, by threatening to cut off their money, by undermining their international support, that Israel will get cold feet, they'll get weaknesses, they'll get weak knees, they'll stop attacking Hamas, and particularly Rafah. The Hamas leadership, the Hamas terrorists, are all gathered in Rafah. Senator Cruz revealed he sat down during a Zoom meeting 2 weeks ago with Prime Minister Netanyahu, who joined the Republican senators at our lunch. Cruz says, I can tell you 2 weeks ago, he was unequivocal. He said, we will go to Rafah, we will enter Rafah, we will engage in a military campaign, and we will utterly eliminate Hamas. And if America's not there, we'll do it on our own. To be honest, what Netanyahu said was almost word for word what Menachem Begin said. Cruz says, people have asked me a lot of times, they said, how is it? How did it come to pass that a Cuban Texan like you, a Southern Baptist, became the leading defender of Israel in the Senate? Now, there are a lot of reasons for that, says Senator Cruz, but he says, I'll tell you, one of the biggest is the attitude of Israel. Israel is surrounded by nations that would drive it into the sea, that would murder every Israeli, every Jew they could. And the only reason they don't is because Israel is strong enough to defeat them all. The last thing they want is a two-state solution. That's a fiction. Cruz says that he has more than once wished that American foreign policy could have the clarity and the strength that Israel's does. He's not surprised that Netanyahu is saying the same thing as Menachem Begin said 40-plus odd years ago, which is Israel only survives because they are not dependent on Biden and the Democrats who are condescending to flick breadcrumbs from their table. What I really wonder, concludes Senator Cruz, where is there one Democrat in Congress with the guts to stand up to Biden and say, this is wrong? We stand with Israel, we stand against Hamas, and all the rest of this is garbage. Senator Cruz is right. A nation has to stand up to defend itself. Is there a message here for Australia? Apart from not joining the monsters who would drive every Jew into the sea? Is this to learn how to stand up and to always be ready to defend ourselves?